Right, so today we're diving deep into Stephen King's Holly, the 2023 thriller.
Yeah, and it's a different kind of King novel in some ways. We're peeling back the supernatural layer here.
Exactly. We've got all the analysis, but the goal today is, well, it's to explore the horror that's maybe the most terrifying kind.
The kind that's hiding right out in the open.
Yeah, behind, ordinary, respectable faces, people you might know.
It's such a focused look at cruelty. And he uses Holly Gibney, who's
Yeah.
become, I think, one of his most interesting characters.
Definitely. We've seen her grow so much since Mr. Mercedes. Remember how anxious and almost cripplingly shy she was?
Oh, absolutely. But the Holly here runs her own PI agency. She's capable, she's determined, even if she still carries those anxieties.
But that capability is really put to the test right at the start, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. She's dealing with some heavy stuff.
Her mother just died from COVID-19. It's set during that fractured pandemic time, and she's drowning in grief and, isolation.
And that initial state, the grief, the isolation, it's so important for the story. Her partner, Pete, actually told her she had to take leave.
Right, forced leave. But she can't really rest, can she? Stuck in her apartment.
No. And her sense of duty, that deep empathy she has, it just won't let her switch off. She's vulnerable, definitely, but maybe that makes her notice things others wouldn't.
Which is why she picks up the phone.
Yeah. That call from Penny Doll. Desperate. Her daughter Bonnie's missing.
And Holly knows she shouldn't. She's supposed to be off. But you feel her empathy just, kick in. It overrides everything else.
She needs a purpose, maybe.
Yeah.
And Bonnie Doll needs someone who actually cares enough to look properly.
And that empathy immediately clashes with, this system.
Oh, right away. Institutional failure, basically.
So Bonnie Doll, the victim, she sounds like this bright, idealistic young woman.
Full of energy. Vanished on her way to see her mom. Just gone.
And the official response.
That's the frustrating part King sets up. The police, they pretty much dismiss it straight away.
Like adult chose to leave, that sort of thing.
Exactly. They just chalk it up as someone walking away. They see paperwork, maybe laziness, not a potential crime.
And that dismissal, it's not just plot, is it? It feels like King commenting on how bureaucracy can just ignore real suffering.
Yeah, it's like the system assumes rationality, so it can't even conceive of a certain kind of methodical evil.
But Holly, she's outside that system. She starts doing the actual work.
The tedious stuff. Checking grainy CCTV footage, walking the route, talking to people the police didn't bother with.
And the trail goes cold somewhere really unsettling.
Not a dark alley or some rough part of town. No, it ends in this quiet, almost unnervingly neat residential neighborhood.
Manicured lawns, everything perfectly normal. That's where the horror really starts to creep in for me.
Totally. The setting itself becomes part of the threat because it makes the danger invisible. How do you fight something you can't even see?
Right. If it looks like just normal life.
Which brings us to the villains, living just a few blocks from where Bonnie was last seen.
Okay, let's talk about them. Rodney and Emily Harris.
The elderly couple.
Huh.
Highly educated, retired professors.
Rodney, a respected toxicologist,
Yeah.
Emily, a poetry professor. They seem utterly harmless.
That facade is key. They're not just polite. They're presented as brilliant, charming, the picture of, old-world intellectual respectability.
It's such a chilling contrast, this veneer of absolute civility.
And it hides something truly monstrous, something they've been doing for decades.
And the secret itself, the core of the horror, it's disturbing because it's not supernatural, is it?
No, not at all. That's the punch. The Harrises are predators, but they see themselves as rational.
Rational cannibals.
Essentially, yeah. They believe they've found a way to halt aging, extend their lives, and the method is consuming human flesh, raw.
Oh, God. And they frame it as what? Medical research.
Pretty much like a scientific necessity for their own longevity. It's this ultimate twisted justification. They aren't crazed killers in the typical sense. They're cold, methodical experimenters.
And they choose their victims so carefully.
Meticulously. People like Bonnie. Young, idealistic, but crucially, people the authorities are less likely to search hard for. People who might just disappear from the statistics.
So they wrap these horrific acts in, academic language, detached analysis.
Exactly. They see themselves as pioneers studying longevity. Each murder is just data collection for their twisted project.
Does King suggest that being smart makes them more evil? Or just, better at hiding it?
I think it's both, maybe. Definitely better at hiding it. More methodical, more chillingly detached. They don't see victims, they see biological material. components for their experiment.
The banality of evil, but filtered through intellectual arrogance.
Right. They haven't lost control. They've reasoned themselves into a place beyond morality, all while being perfectly capable of having polite chats over the garden fence.
Treating murder like admin work. That's deeply unsettling. The monster isn't some creature. It's your polite elderly neighbor taking notes.
And while Holly's slowly uncovering that horror, she's fighting her own battles inside.
Yeah, let's get back to Holly. The grief, the anxiety, and her mother's voice.
Oh, that's a huge part of it. Her late mother, who constantly criticized her, instilled guilt, doubt. That voice is still there, haunting her.
So she's got this external investigation and this intense internal struggle happening at the same time. How does that affect her work?
It makes her hyper-aware, maybe? Her anxiety translates into this obsessive attention to detail. Her own feelings of isolation, maybe they help her focus on the inconsistencies in the Harris's perfect story.
So her vulnerability becomes a kind of strength.
I think so. Radical empathy. Where the cops see a missing person statistic, Holly feels the fear of the person. Her strength is quiet patience, observation, that willingness to look closely because she already knows profound loss.
And she starts connecting things the police miss.
Yeah, she links Bonnie's case to other missing persons, forgotten people. A pattern emerges.
And it leads her right to the Harris's front door.
And she starts noticing the little things that are just off. Strange deliveries at odd hours, inconsistent stories, and this weird smell.
From the basement. Oh, the Dread King builds there is incredible. It's so slow, so psychological.
You feel her tension. You know she's alone, closing in on these two incredibly smart, seasoned killers who look like someone's grandparents.
The suspense isn't about jump scares. It's about knowing what might be behind that locked cellar door.
Yeah. The simple, awful truth hidden in a normal house.
And the confrontation, the climax. When she finally faces them, it's terrifying, but Holly's courage isn't like an action hero.
No, it's the courage of someone acting despite the fear, despite that critical voice in her head telling her she's not good enough. She's just fundamentally decent, trying to stop something horrible.
Her victory isn't about being tougher. It's about just persisting, morally persisting.
She survives, yes.
Yeah.
But the book makes it clear there's a heavy cost. Trauma. The sickening knowledge of what seemingly nice people are capable of.
It's not a triumphant ending. It's survival and reflection.
Yeah. She's seen the absolute worst of humanity hiding behind tweed jackets and PhDs.
So where does that leave Holly? After everything?
Well, she steps back into the world. Changed, obviously. But she's moving forward. She starts to make a kind of peace with her mother's memory, maybe reclaiming it without the guilt.
And accepting the world as it is, with both kindness and this potential for cruelty.
I think so. It's ultimately a story about endurance, quiet endurance, and how empathy can actually be a powerful tool, even against calculated evil.
Which brings us back to that core idea that makes the book so unsettling. The horror is us. It lives in ordinary people.
Makes it feel terrifyingly possible, doesn't it?
It really does. Evil doesn't need horns and a tail. Sometimes it just smiles politely and offers you tea.
And King, through Holly, seems to suggest that real bravery is often just that quiet persistence, the willingness to keep looking when everyone else turns away.
So the question we want to leave you with is this. When the world feels chaotic, maybe even cruel, and evil puts on its best suit and talks very rationally, can simple human decency, like Holly's, actually win?
Maybe it can. You know, as long as there are people willing to pay attention, to use their empathy, to search for those who get lost in the cracks, quietly refusing to look away.
If this deep dive makes you want to experience Holly's journey yourself, you can find the full novel and lots of other great audio content over on Audible.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into resilience, trauma, and the truly chilling horror of the everyday.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.